यत्तु कामेप्सु न कर्म साहंकारेण वा पुनः क्रियते बहुलायासम तद्राजसम उदाहृतम. Hello friends, this is the 24th shlok of the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and today we will understand this shlok in detail. So let's first go over its meaning. So the shlok says, Yattu kamepsu na karma, which means but the action to attain desire. Sahankarena vapunaha, which means with the ego, or kriyate bahulayasam, which means performed with a lot of effort. Tadrajasam udahritam, which means is said to be rajasic. So in this shlok, Sri Krishna mentioned that the rajasic action is the one performed with great effort while being identified with ego and with the motive to attain some desire. So, since rajas is the quality which is associated with greed, therefore clearly it will basically motivate an action in such a way wherein there is greed in that action, or you can say an action which is motivated by greed is the action which is influenced by the rajas quality of nature. Now, greed only arises when the person is identified with the ego. Therefore, it is obvious that a rajasic action will be performed while being identified with the ego. Now, when a person is identified with the ego, then such a person has not really submitted to the will of the Lord, and such a person basically is performing actions on his own ability. There is no divine help that he is getting because he has not surrendered himself to the Lord. So, when the help of the divine is not really there, then any action that the ego will perform, the ego will have to complete it on its own ability. And since the ability of the ego is not really that much, therefore the action becomes very difficult to do, and therefore a lot of effort from the ego has to be put in order to fulfill or finish that action, because the divine help is not really there. The divine does not will for that action to be completed, and therefore the ego has to do it on its own ability, and so such an action is performed with a lot of effort. And because it's motivated by greed, therefore it will be selfish for sure, because the very definition of greed is selfishness. So it will be a selfish action which is getting motivated by some sort of a selfish desire of the ego to fulfill. So that is what Sri Krishna has basically said over here, that an action which is performed while being identified with the ego, which is performed for the sake of the ego to attain something for the ego itself, and which is performed with a lot of effort because it is not helped by the divine. The divine does not want it, but the ego wants it, and therefore ego is trying really hard to get that. So when that kind of a characteristic you see in an action, that clearly understand that such an action is a rajasic action which is being performed under the mode of rajas. So that was the message of this shlok. I hope that I have explained this shlok well to you. With that, I'll close this video. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.